Hello and welcome to a new video. In this video I'm going to talk about communal rituals and really about, in that sense, why it is important. I just hope I'm not going to be eaten here by the mosquitoes. There's like, you look damn tasty. But anyways, yes, let's just dive right into the video. So now coming to the video itself, I want to go through how a community ritual works. I want to do that by showing footage from a shamanistic ritual performed in Ningguta, China. Then after, I want to talk more about what the importance is of doing these rituals in a more, broad sense. So, in the ritual, food items and incense is first offered to the deities and spirits within the ritual, which also contains chanting.
Mukuni kwa hahna jai hahna saman gum bayi ari hatu shamba yabubuma.
So, in the ritual, food items and incense is first offered to the deities and spirits within the ritual, which also contains chanting. The shamans in this particular ritual are leading it and performing the necessary duties to be done to re-establish and maintain the relationship between the community, on the one hand, the spirits on the other hand, and their environment. Before this ritual is performed in the ancestor hall, they also look at their shared ancestry and history and also make offerings to the ancestors. The veneration of the dead, including one's ancestors, is based on love and respect for the deceased. The ritual that you are going to see now is them performing the ritual in which they sacrifice incense, different food items, alcoholic drinks, and such to the ancestors. Whilst they perform this ritual itself, which is through being passed down through many generations, in a sense an offering of this performance in of itself to the ancestors, as it should in that sense please them that they still upkeep the old traditions. In this particular example that I'm using, there are also elements of Chinese culture in general at play. So that's something I want to add to this particular example. Although there are also more animistic and shamanistic elements to the ancestor worship, they do. So now talking generally about ancestor worship within a more broad Chinese cultural background. Well, ancestor worship refers to rituals designed to venerate the spirits of one's deceased forebears. While it is often associated with the Confucian notion of filial piety within China, ancestor worship crosses the boundaries of religious traditions, geographical regions, and socio-economic status. And there's a reason for it. And the reason for it really is that it ancestor worship in China and, well, in that sense, outside of China too, dates back to the Neolithic period, and is hence one of the oldest and most influential elements. And in this case, the most influential elements of Chinese religious culture, where this still is alive today. The ancestor worship itself is about honoring and recollecting the actions of the deceased. As one source says, the importance of paying respect to parents. As one source says, the importance of paying respect to parents and elders lies with the fact that all physical bodily aspects of one's being were created by one's parents, who continued to tend to one's well-being until one was on firm footing. The respect and homage to parents is to return this gracious deed to them in life and after. End of quote. It is, however, within China also common to do worship of communal deities. Chinese religion, in its communal expression, involves the worship of gods that are the generative power and tutelary spirit of a place, of a certain aspect of nature. Think a river god or a mountain god. Or of gods that are common ancestors of a village. In this particular case, there are elements of both present within the ritual. People honor both their ancestors, but at the same time also pay homage to the shared common ancestors represented through local deities and the spirits of place and nature that surround them. The ritual itself is performed by the shamans that function as the bridge between the spirits and the community. They then after chant, drum and dance to appease the spirits and to make this offering to the spirits and ancestors. The drum is the mount of the shaman, which they use to travel between the ordinary and spiritual world. And in some cases, it's seen as three worlds, even though that doesn't have to be the case within the tradition. It can be different within the different cultures and traditions how this plays out. But the important factor is the sense of being a bridge, and then the drum in the cultures which use the drum being the mount of the shaman, the vehicle of transportation. And this also allows them to convey messages. After this, there is a ritual performed before the final feast that is held together with all the people within the community.
Kerinno fi emmada isanduma subjadunduma.
Now, when it comes to these community celebrations and rituals, well, why are they important? Well, they are important for the following reasons. They give us a sense of belonging, but can also serve as sites of questions and exploration, as in that they can help answer significant questions about histories, communities, and self-identity. Community celebrations are an important socializing force as well. through the participation in community celebrations, people learn to participate in the construction and the consumption of their cultures. To really say this in more simple terms, these rituals establish and maintain cultural identity. It is also a place where the oldest people share things with the youngest, and knowledge about heritage, ecology, ethics, history, and art are shared. Community celebrations involves all people from all ages, socio-economic status, career background, and political affiliations. And they are all involved in some facet of the event itself. So these community celebrations bring all these different peoples together in a shared activity, in something that they share beyond all of these other things that would break them up within, well, different categories or different social status or generational status or whatever. And in that sense, these community celebrations are also a place where something very important gets highlighted too, which is that it places the individual within the community and links the community itself and the individuals with the cycles of nature, especially when it comes to, well, personally I would say these more animistic, shamanistic rituals here that are being performed. But I mean, even in that sense, ones that aren't really that overtly animistic or shamanistic in nature still can carry such elements within it. Another important factor with this is that it is through rituals in general that we build families and community. It also can mark transitions within the cycles of nature, but also within the life of the individual. Think rites of passage type rituals. These rituals form a cultural structure and hierarchy on the one hand, and these ceremonies are in that sense an expression of culture. In that sense, they are a public show of an adherence to basic shared religious values or shared values in general. Yet on the other hand, these same ceremonies through the feasting also allow for social stresses that are inherent in a particular culture to be expressed and worked out symbolically in a ritual catharsis. In the Western world, we still have some of these elements present in Carnival, which, by the way, dates back all the way to ancient Rome. The practice of masking within Carnival allows people to be what they are not, and this then can act as a general social leveler. Erasing otherwise tense social hierarchies in a community. And in that sense, that particular festival emphasizes the interaction outside the bounds of normal social limits. And there is a reason why these kinds of rituals, well, both the one that you have seen and these kind of rituals as well are necessary, as it allows not only a coming together based on something higher than well, the divided classifications, but it also in that sense allows for, in Jungian terms, things that have been pushed into the shadow to come up and be expressed, and in that sense a lot of social tension and a lot of build up, collective pressure to be expressed and to be worked through. That's really the case regarding to that, and the feast in it of itself, which is also present within it, allows for not just this coming together, but it allows for like things to be smoothed over more easily. So you're all happy. You're there. Well, you're happy, drunk, and in a good mood. And it's easier to smooth things over with other people than if you would all just be stuck in all kinds of other shit and well, have this element of anger and hate and all of these other things present. And it's also one thing that that is in the video that I've been using. If you watch the entire documentary, you see also one instance where, well, they talk about that, about the Klansmen having to leave hate and anger and such things behind. Even though, like, you know, with Dionysus and his rituals, it's similarly like the certain aspects needed to be left behind. You need to leave those behind. You're in sacred space. Those things are not there right now. We're here together to do the feast, the rituals, and do these things. But coming now back to the animistic elements present within this particular ritual ceremony that I used as an example, well, from an animistic lens, there's not just a human and social aspect to these ritual ceremonies, but it is also about the question of relationship between matter and spirit. Now, according to animistic beliefs, animals, plants, lands, waters, rocks, and mountains, well, they're alive, and thus humans should live within equitable relations of respect and reciprocity with all other beings. In some animist communities that do this, they do it through what we call shamanism in this particular example. And the shamans are highly trained individuals that are employed to engage with the spirits and ancestors on behalf of the community. The shamans are also usually responsible for healing and other rituals and activities associated with individual and communal well-being. You know, to make these connections, shamans partake in various activities such as drumming, dancing, and chanting. The shamans can do for individuals also things such as spirit divination, consulting oracles, to establish causes and rituals that heal, purify, exercise, and protect. If you want to know more about the role of the shaman, I suggest watching my video on it, and also check out Three World Shamanism, which is, to be honest, a really helpful resource when it comes to understanding this. Well, coming back to the video. Now then, looking at the ceremony in the video I used, there is both a social and human element in it, and also this animistic element that is highlighted through the ceremony and rituals to honor the connection between the community and their surroundings and the spirits. To, in that sense, make sure that the entire community, which includes the surroundings, which we in a modern sense call the environment, is doing good, and that we are having a proper relationship with the surroundings, the spirits, and the people within the community at large. As through living within equitable relations of respect and reciprocity with all other beings, we can create well-being for the entire community of being. Finally, then, also to wrap this video up, these type of communal rituals are important because they not only re-establish and maintain a shared culture, sense of belonging, bringing people from all facets of the community together, but they also create a sense of identity and create a sense of remembrance of the place of the community within the larger web of life itself. just creating also the sense of remembrance of how to relate well to the world and to each other. Though as previously also said, it also allows for social stresses that are inherent in a particular culture to be expressed and worked out symbolically. I hope in that sense that, by watching this video, that it might become more clear of why they're doing these, or like, why they're doing these kind of rituals, and why, in that sense, I guess also in the West we used to do these kinds of rituals and these kinds of communal celebrations, and kind of what really the purpose for it is. That there is a higher purpose to it than just like, just get together and just feast and that's that. No, there's more. There's more to it, and in that sense, for the West, I think, not just for the West, but for any culture where people are becoming quite lonely in that sense and isolated from each other, it is important to remember these things, to reconnect with it, and to really remember why we have these kind of rituals and had these in the past. That they are an expression of culture in the one sense, yes, but also it's a means to build community, to in that sense, in the ancient sense, to build a sense of cohesion within the tribe. And in that sense, that's why, and at least in like a social sense, it's important. Even though I would personally stress that the animistic element, what I'm showing here, in a modern sense, is important as well, to really reconnect us back to nature, and to really understand that, yes, we live within the world, and we cannot just, I guess in that sense, take and do whatever the fuck we want to do with the world. That there is this need for us being in the ecosystem, and that we are part of it in that sense. And I feel that these rituals help in bringing this understanding to the people, and to keep that up. Because the thing is that over time, if you don't have these kind of rituals, these kind of things happening, as a people, you start to forget. And certain things then become, they start to be taken for granted, and then you forget these things, and then later down the line you're suddenly realizing like, fuck, this is something that, like, maybe we were a bit like hasty with thinking like, this is just this thing, like whatever. It's like, nah, there's something to it. It's like, we might want to reframe it in modern terms if you feel, or like if that makes more sense for one, but there is an element in it that's very important. So I hope that that's the least that you would take away from this. And and if you're interested in this, for sure check out Three World Shamanism, and also, check out the documentary and really look at it and see what they're doing. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just a dreamer here, but maybe it could inspire us to start doing these kind of things again, to bring this sense of belonging and community, to our civilization again, to our cities, our villages.